Hello, everyone from around the world. Welcome to our session today on life and career at Google Dublin. This is brought to you by our series of lovely panelists here, both working in Google and in Dublin, and both from a variety of different backgrounds and different places. So before we start, I will go through a slide deck and just go through our agenda quickly, so bear with me. All right, so as I mentioned in our agenda today, first of all, we'll have a bit of getting to know our panelists today and understanding where it is that they've come from and how they've come to Google Dublin. Then we'll go through a little bit in the Google office and what it means to work here, and a little bit about what we do in our spare time. Finally, we'll have a chat about our careers at EMEA and what it means to be here, and we'll have some live questions from yourselves as well, so feel free to keep your thinking caps on during the session, and we'll get to those towards the end. So firstly, who are we? I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Kate. I'm your host for today. I work for Google Cloud here in Dublin, and what that essentially means is that we package up the power of Google and sell it onto businesses. So my fun fact that I've listed here is that I played football or soccer for Australia way back when. And I've also just written my very first book. So I'll hand over to Casper.
My name is Casper. I'm from Denmark. I'm from a very, very small town in Denmark, around 200 inhabitants. So I'm like a small town farmer boy in a big town right now. My fun fact is that I have a black belt in Taekwondo, which I got 5 years ago, and I write my own mini manuscripts, mainly comedy. Yeah.
So that's for film as well, isn't it?
For film, yeah.
For film, fantastic.
That's so cool. Hi guys, I'm Sebastian. I am originally Dutch, but I've been living in Belgium for the last 10 years. Before that, I lived in the US and in Japan for a while. I actually started out at Google as an intern in the Amsterdam office. I was there for 3 months. I was actually back in February, so it really wasn't that long ago. And then halfway through, they said there was a position, in Dublin. And so, yeah, I jumped on it, and I've been here for 3 months. And then I work in the customer sales. So with our largest advertisers on YouTube and then Google search. And so my fun fact, it's sort of a weird thing. I think I haven't heard many other people do this. I'm getting kind of red. I see myself already. Is that I watch Netflix at twice the speed to kind of optimize and save time. And I really love wearing suits, which is very ironic because this is probably the only place where no one else wears a suit. But yeah, I like that a lot.
So watching Netflix at 2 times the speed, do you have a favorite TV show or TV movie? TV movie?
I do have a favorite TV. I really like Entourage. I don't know if many Entourage
And you can watch that at 2 times the speed and still.
Yeah, except I did it. I watched it again at the normal speed because I felt like it was too good to actually. So yeah, that's why I kind of did. But generally, yes, twice the speed.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
All right.
I'm next. Hi, everyone. I'm Julia. I'm working in large customer sales as well. And I started at Google a long time ago, 6 years ago. And I started in Polish office in Wrocław. And then 3 years ago, I moved to Dublin. So now I'm selling Google solutions in terms of AdWords and YouTube to our large clients in the UK. And my fun fact. So I'm from the country that's not there anymore. And I'm not sure if you guys can guess. So you can start typing your guesses in the chat, as far as I know. And I'm also from the city that it's not on a map anymore. So everybody can guess it. Guys, you know already. I'll tell you. So I'm from USSR, which is not there anymore. It's Russia. And I'm from Leningrad, which became St. Petersburg. So I have some issues, yes, crossing the border. My passport is a mess. Who's next?
Yeah, so hello guys, my name is Thibaut. I'm from France. I'm from the south of France. I first studied and worked a little bit in Paris before joining Google here in Dublin about 1 year ago. And I'm working for GCC, which means Global Customer Care within Google here. And basically my team is helping customers who has issues on their Google Ads account. So it's more a reactive job than a sales job. And my fun fact is that I actually I'm passionate about comics, and I have a YouTube channel dedicated to comics analysis. So please subscribe.
So we do have the link in the slides as well, and apologies for the flicking back and forth. It's just so we can do, you can meet our lovely panelists and also see our fun facts at the same time. So on that note, I will jump back into the slides. So there's a link there for the YouTube channel that you mentioned. Feel free to subscribe. Shameless plugs, all wanted in this space. So we're just going to talk a little bit now about the Dublin office and what it means here. So I'm not sure if everyone's aware, we do have a few buildings that we own in Dublin. And I guess they all have their different quirks and their different passions and their different interests. So I'll pass over to Julia. What do you think is your favorite thing about working in the Dublin office?
A couple of things. Their office is huge, and I really like their diversity of different buildings. You can do different things. You can go for a nap in one of the rooms, or you can go to the gym. But my favorite spot, I would say, is the top floor in one of our buildings. It's actually their highest spot in Dublin. And I like going there when I need to do some project work, because you can look at the sea and have some headspace. So yeah, that's my favorite spot.
Fantastic. And from yourself, Thibaut?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, exactly like Julia said, the office are really nice. I often compare them a bit as Hogwarts in Harry Potter, because you always discover a new thing, especially when you make them visit to other people. And my favorite things, I would say, are the 2 music rooms that we have in the Dublin office here in Dublin. Because obviously, when you move from another country to an island such as Ireland, you cannot bring your instruments. So it was the case for me. I was playing the guitar in France, and I couldn't bring it here in Dublin. So I went.
And
We should be fine.
Technical difficulty.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think this one can.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah, no. So you have all the, right back. So you have all these different spaces, which are really cool, and it's kind of fun to just wander around and check them out. I think I'm also in the same building as Julia here, and they have some amazing views on the top floors. They have the terrace, which in the summer was actually one of the coolest places for me to hang out. Like the last few hours of the day when you don't have any calls or anything or stuff like that. To kind of get some sun and to work at the same time. And the other room that's probably my favorite is it's called the App Hub, and it's quite special. You have like this huge miniature Android kind of guy standing around and some great couches. It's really cool. So that's what I love about it.
And on that note, I would like to say we had a cracking summer in Dublin this year. So there is sunlight. Don't believe otherwise. It is beautiful here.
Exactly.
Right. And from you, Casper?
Yeah. So on our floor in the Dublin HQ, we have a solid barista machine, coffee machine, and I've never used one of these devices before. I'm used to the Insta Coffee. So I chose to now learn how to make coffee with the barista machine, learn how to make cappuccinos and foam art and all that. So yeah, if all else fails, now I can always be a barista, which is super nice. And my second favorite is obviously all the restaurants, all the different kinds of foods.
Anybody traveling, feel free to hit Casper up for coffees. He's around. Maybe you guys can get a coffee when you meet in your building, and then that would all kind of come together nicely.
Yeah.
And one thing I think I'd say for my favorite thing about working in Google Dublin would be the food. The chefs here go above and beyond every day for food that they put out. And it's a massive testament to them that they've all managed to kind of keep us here for this long with all the food that they provide, I would say.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Thank you guys for just giving us a little highlight about the Dublin office. So who are we and what teams do we make up here in Dublin? So we have just over 7,000 people in total working in Google Dublin, and that's made up of a variety of different backgrounds and interests. So you can see here about 15% of us are from the engineering side of things, 70% are from global business, and this can include things like sales and marketing, 5% from people operations, and then it kind of filters down. So me, myself, I would be more in the global business side of things. So the same for everyone?
Yeah,
I think we're all there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So you can just see the different mix and makeup that we all have here. And our site leaves as well, we've got listed there. So they're kind of, I guess, the top dogs, we would call them. But yeah. So quick question over to the audience. What year do you think that the Google Dublin office opened? So you have the choice between 2001 and 2003.
I'd say it sounds. It's both quite early if you think about it.
Yeah, they've been here for a while.
From the founding of Google to Dublin straight away. It's been here quite a bit.
Well, we just had 20 years, didn't we?
Celebrated
Yeah.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah,
So
this September.
yeah, it looks like Google must have opened a little bit after that here, maybe.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Getting some responses in now.
So we have the majority is 2003.
Yeah, definitely.
Is anybody going to go for 2001? Come on, be controversial.
Break the
Now you're
mold.
pressuring-
Break the
now
mold,
you're
guys.
pressuring.
How many people didn't Google this?
Okay,
You know?
and the answer is not 2001. So for everyone who hit 2003, congratulations. That is bang on the money.
Nice.
Well done, well done. Shout out to Kevin, Joey A,
Yeah,
who
of
just
course.
did a big smiley face. You gave it a good try. All right, next question. What percentage of Dublin Googlers are not from Ireland? This may throw you, but I am not from Ireland. I am from Sydney, Australia. So I think on this couch, do not have anyone from.
Nope.
No.
No, which is kind of strange, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll throw it out to our panelists here today. What was the biggest motivator for you to move to Dublin?
Well, the job.
Well, that's, yeah, okay. But I mean, you can work for Google anywhere around the world. You have the opportunity to move to Dublin. What was the big kind of incentive?
The fact that it's European headquarter,
Mhm.
there are many opportunities to grow and switch between the teams. Especially we are, for example, the stages we are not sure where to go next. You can explore. You can go for coffee with anybody from different team, and then kind of to make a decision whether you want to stay here, to move to a different team, and maybe eventually even to move to another office. But I think that Dublin is a great hub for that, just to initially to grow.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, so you really.
See a lot of responses with 72.
Seems like that's the majority there.
Yeah.
One other quick question, I guess, is, and I think this would be something of interest for me personally before I moved over, is what does an average weekend look like? Or, you know, how does the social life, what's the social life like in Dublin?
I'd say I can go. Basically, my weekends consists of either three things, which is basically a road trip around Ireland, or a celebration of some sort. There's always a birthday or a housewarming, or since we're all collected from all these different countries, there's so many different national holidays as well, and national celebration days. I'd say that, and the third one is there's always something to do in Dublin as well, since there's so many different nationalities. There's always some different celebrations going around in Dublin itself. I would say in terms of Ireland, I would say Dublin is not the most exciting place of Ireland. In Ireland, it is Ireland itself. So I
Very
think
true.
I don't know how many of you have been on a road trip before here. Where you
Because you can cross the whole island in 4 or 3 hours, so you can easily discover all Ireland. Every weekend go somewhere, and at the end of the year, you really know very well the country, which is quite cool.
Plus, I would say Dublin is a good hub for traveling somewhere for the weekend. So I would say every third, second weekend, many expats there somewhere else, and I think it's a great opportunity to use it for these short trips for the weekend. We have Ryanair.
Yeah.
And
Shout out to Ryanair. Thank you.
And you're completely correct as well, Peter. Sipping Guinness with pals is also quite a big part of it as well.
I think it wouldn't be Ireland if it wasn't for the Guinness.
No.
Okay, so flicking back over to the slides. What percentage of Dublin Googlers are not from Ireland? So the answer is not 65. The majority is 72. So 72% of us which is probably indicative of this couch right now, are not represented by anyone from Ireland. So it is a very welcoming country in the sense that they've taken us all on board. But yeah, the majority here are expats coming in from different backgrounds, different countries, and different nationalities. So how many languages are spoken on the Dublin campus? Now, this is a kind of an interesting question because, I mean, how many languages can you speak, Julia?
I would say 2.5.
What's the half?
It's Spanish, my Spanish.
Okay.
The French. To be honest, yeah, when I was in Poland, I was taking classes, and it's great that Google was providing this opportunity. We were having one-to-one classes with the Polish language teachers, which is great because when you are not in English-speaking country, it's very important to have these basics in order to be able to communicate, which was great. So after 3 years, I was able to provide some kind of guidelines to tourists in Poland, which I'm very proud of. But yeah, originally my mother tongue is Russian, and of course, English is a working language.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, for me, I would say 2.5, same, like French, English, and a bit of Spanish. But it's something really cool in the Google office that you hear languages in every floors. You hear different languages. Like for instance, on my floor, we have the French team, the French corner, but just next to us there is the Italian corner, then the Spanish corner. In front of it there is the German corner. So you really hear many languages all around you, and this is something I personally really like.
Who's the loudest?
I'll probably go for 3.5, I guess.
Okay.
I'd say 3.5.
Yeah.
So that's English, Dutch, French, because that's also in Belgium, and then German. I'm trying. We understand, and I can speak it, but it's not my favorite language. I'll put it that way. So yeah, it's very similar to Dutch, but yeah. To add to his point. You hear so many different languages, and what's cool is also that you're kind of clustered together with, the people you work with are usually on a certain market. So I'll be working then with the Dutch people, but then next to us, you'll have all the different markets, and you can just go downstairs during lunch or whatever, and you'll hear so many different languages. And so that's quite cool, actually.
It's just 2 for me.
Just 2.
Yeah, Danish and
Just
English.
2.
I should be able to understand and speak Swedish and Norwegian. I feel like, since it's part of the Nordic, the languages are similar, but I just don't understand them at all. Even though the rest of the Danish team does. So.
Well, you're one ahead of me though. So I mean, English is my predominant. I am learning a little bit of German, but it's tough. It is tough. My favorite expression is "Ich weiß nicht," which I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's gotten me through most of my German conversations. All right. So jumping back into the slides, how many languages, are spoken on the Dublin campus? Now, I think from just looking at the answers that the majority is looking at 69. So let's have a look. Well, it's definitely not 58 because that's got the thumbs down. So anyone who puts 69 would be correct. Great job, Matteo, for actually plugging that in very last minute as well. So we've got that one in there. Now we will open up to some questions for the panel. So we've got the questions in front of us here, and we will do our best to answer any and all questions related to both Google and life in Ireland itself. They're the Cliffs of Moher, aren't they?
Yeah.
We're looking at? Yeah. Have you guys been there?
Yeah.
I seem to be like the only one. Okay, I haven't been here for that long, so I get a pass on that one. But I am going. I have been to the other 2 places because there's so much great scenery around. So.
Yeah. Mind you, the day I did go, it was, I love this expression, it was lashing down with rain. And the wind was so powerful, I kind of felt like an airbender. So it was actually quite fun to be there in that time. But unfortunately...
That weather is exceptional. No, it doesn't happen much.
No, it doesn't happen much at all. But I heard a great expression the other day when they said Ireland, basically, you can have a whole season or a whole bunch of seasons in one day.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's true.
And I couldn't imagine anything that better explains what life is like in Dublin. It's quite fun. So we'll open it up. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. But just for the panel here, first one from me. What has been your favorite experience at Google in Dublin so far?
I'll go first. I think for me, probably the welcoming, I think, is probably one of the coolest things. I think that's probably an easy one, but for a lot of people watching, and I think for everyone here, making the step to come over here and to leave where you're from, not always the easiest decision. Depends on the person, obviously. But then once you get here, you see how amazing it is. The first week, the Noogler week, as we call it, is just full of fun, learning about Google, going out, learning about Ireland, learning about Dublin. And it's just a great way to bond with people who are in the same boat, who also are moving here, who are like starting their new job and then kind of looking for friends, for social interaction. And so I think that was really, really cool. And the people you meet there, a lot of them you really stick with, and then they kind of give you an opportunity to meet outside of your market. So that was very cool for me.
And the first week is definitely feels like the first week of uni as well.
Yeah.
Very similar in many ways.
Yeah.
I would say for me, it's definitely the people around. We just saw 69 languages, so you just get exposed to so many different things all the time, and different cultural experiences as well. One thing I noticed, like, it's just the small things that's amazing to me is if you go to a party, for example, a house party, it's very different from country to country, whether you invite a lot of people and everybody stands up, or you just invite a few people and you sit down around the table. It's like one of those very few things where it's very different from country to country. I'd say generally the people here make it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you agree. So the people on the beginning is very nice, and I would say too in the beginning, the one thing that I really liked was the first TGIF, because on every Friday we have what we call a TGIF. It's like a party with the whole company, and you have events, you have sometimes a band on a stage, and when you're on Noogler, it's the first time you do it. So for you, it's just crazy to have all the company gathering here on Friday, and you also have your Noogler cap, so you can be proud of it. So I would say that was my favorite one. I liked it so much actually that now I'm one of my side projects here, because you have your core job and you also have 20% time allocated for side projects. So my side project is dedicated to the onboarding of the Noogler. So
Nice. For me, I've been here for some time. It's almost 3 years. So I would say the most recent moment that I really liked, it was team event for our large customer sales team for UK market, when we went for a hike, and then we went to Dunleary. Try to spell Dunleary. It's a challenge. And we went for a sailing course there. It was amazing weather. And it's a great experience to go away from your desk, just together with your team, to have some experience. And again, it was like 100% Irish experience, with a beautiful coast walk with the sea, and then with nice pint and a nice Irish food. So I would say, for me, it was a highlight of their, I would say, last couple of months.
Okay.
Fantastic. Okay, so we have quite a few questions coming through. We will do our best to answer most of them, or however many we can. So forgiveness, please, if we don't manage to get to your question, but we will address them at some stage. So the first one that I've got listed here, let me scroll up a little bit. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So one of the first ones we've got is, how do I join roles at Google? And I think there's some specifics mentioned there. We do have a Google page where you can apply for these roles, I'm pretty sure. So you should just be able to find that by Googling them as well, and then putting in the application that way. Does that sound about right? Yep.
Yeah. You don't need to be, as you write here, you don't need to be part of the Bold mentorship program to get into one of these roles. Mm-hmm. Certainly it helps, but you don't need to be a previous intern. You don't need to be a previous Bold immersion program participant to join any of these roles. It's basically just apply, see what happens.
No, I like this one. Do you travel a lot when working at Google? Team?
Well, I guess it depends.
It depends, I think, on the role. It depends on the market. For me, my current role implies that I'm traveling to London quite often, at least once a quarter. But sometimes you have additional trips. For example, one of my clients, they're working in Korea. In the last year, I went to Seoul for a workshop for the client. It was amazing because they also have very cool office in Seoul with amazing Korean food, apart from other highlights. So yeah, I would say quite a lot.
I think the cool thing is, whilst I was working in Google Australia, I applied for the role here in Europe, and it was an easy transfer because it was already kind of in the ecosystem. So even once you've got a foot in the door at Google, there are so many opportunities for different offices, different locations, and different roles. So I went from working with Google Maps in Australia over to Google Cloud, and within that time, I think I've been to over 10 offices from Google, and that ranges from Japan to the US to Singapore. It's really unreal the amount of opportunity you can get with travel. So even, for example, in our own team, I think at the beginning of every year we host an annual get together, and that's located in Vegas. So you can just imagine what that would look like. But it's great fun. And do you guys have a favorite office that you've been to so far? Apart from Dublin, clearly.
The Copenhagen office.
Copenhagen, yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, I like the Amsterdam office. Although I do like London, the CHG. I think because they have multiple ones in London, but that one's also very, very nice. So those are two of the ones that I've seen, which are very cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
Copenhagen.
I've been to the Los Angeles office, and
Nice.
this one is just amazing. So first of all, because they have a YouTube space, which is so cool, and you like YouTube, and personally I love YouTube, so you can visit the YouTube space and see the studios. And also it's very close to the beach, and they even have boards, so you can, if you have finished your day early, you can take your boards and go to surf some waves. It's just 5 minutes walking, so that's very nice. Yeah.
That's right is that on Venice Beach?
Yeah,
like,
it's
right?
on Venice Beach. Yeah,
Amazing,
exactly, yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I've been to a few offices. Actually, I was trying to count, and I think it's around 20. So I hope I will get some badge for that amount of offices. And actually, yeah, like from Mountain View to Japan, and each office is completely different. I really liked, of course, office in Mountain View because it's kind of like a small town, like a city. They have their own transportation system, and you have even a schedule of buses, how to get from one campus to another, which is amazing. So it's
taxi service to
exactly. They have special buses how to like travel within the city, which is absolutely amazing. And yeah, in terms of food, I think Japan is the winner.
I agree with that. I love the food in Japan. This one's directed at you, Casper.
Oh.
How would you describe your typical day in your position? So maybe talk us through a little bit about your position and what it is that you do.
So my position is I work in the Google Marketing Solutions department, which is basically what Sebastian and Julia is doing, just for small to medium businesses. I work on the agency part, which means I handle media agencies rather than direct clients. I would say it's very difficult to describe a typical day, but it typically involves, you talk with the clients, but the majority of the time you spend on either doing some market analysis or doing some forecasting or whatever these agencies need to convince or to show how you can grow with Google, basically. But yeah, not one day is different. We're sitting right now doing this, doing working hours, instead of actually working and answering emails. I think at Google you typically get, how many emails do you get per day? It's crazy the amount. But it's very different. I think the thing I like the most is also hosting workshops with the agencies, explaining the products, because even though these media agencies sit with these products a long time, of course, we're sitting inside Google, so we have more resources to know what to do with these products. So yeah, not one day is different, but a lot of analysis, a lot of talking to clients, I'd say.
Cool. So I like this question, and I think we can probably spend a bit of time on this as well, is how many attempts did it take to get through the interview? And I think before we get to that question, we should talk maybe just a little bit about what it's like to even interview at Google. It's a very different process to how you interview at maybe another company. So we kind of focus on 4 key areas, and we interview for things like Googliness. So you will notice that a lot of us probably have a very maybe different personalities, but a similar kind of driven drive kind of thing. But yeah, does anyone want to kind of harken on to how they experienced the Google interview process?
A long time ago. I can briefly talk about my experience. So I applied straight after uni, actually, when I was finishing my master's, just through the website, and I got selected for, I think, 1 phone interview, and then I passed it, and I already had 3 on-site interviews in Poland. So I came over. It was a great experience because it was face-to-face. The team met me. They brought me for lunch. Somebody was responsible to make sure I feel confident and comfortable, and it was great. And then, they just approached me and told me that I'm in. Pretty straightforward.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, for me, it was a bit different because I started as an intern, but I think also for Casper.
Yeah.
So the way it was for me was I had 2 phone interviews. Well, they were Hangouts, so they weren't in person, but they were over Hangouts by video. And so those were, I think I'm not exactly sure, but there are a few aspects that they look for, which is 1, Googliness, then you have role-related knowledge, and then you have GCA, which I think is general cognitive ability. I might be forgetting 1, but those are mostly the big ones that they look at. And for me, so the first one was just very simple, was more on my leadership capabilities and my personality, I'd say. And the second one was then also 30 to 40 minutes, I think. And that was more understanding about like what AdWords was, how exactly, what the benefits were, how you would help clients, and kind of simulation of what we do daily, sort of. Yeah.
I actually got rejected for my first application for an internship. I sent in an application. I got the response back, sorry, you don't have the qualifications. I thought, okay, what do I do now? I wrote to the recruiter, like, could you give me more information about what I need? And the recruiter said, no, go in and read more about the role and think for yourself, like, is this actually what you want to do? So, okay, I thought to myself, I went in, I read, and I thought to myself, okay, what do I need to convince them that I'm good enough to go in for an internship here? So I actually started out doing another internship in another company, and chose to focus on a lot of different aspects that I would have done elsewise. And then I applied again. Luckily, I had a friend who had a job over here. He helped me a lot through the interview and like what to say and how to say it and what Google is actually looking for. And then finally got in for an internship and went through the same process as Sebastian. Got the full-time job afterwards, so we didn't have to do the hardcore interviews on site. So that's lucky. But yeah,
mine were pretty hardcore. It was all right.
I think it's a really interesting point that you both make, though, is that interviewing at Google isn't just about understanding the role, isn't just about, I guess, the experience and the background that you've had prior to this. They really try and understand things like, what else do you like doing, what drives you and what motivates you. And I feel like the interview process really kind of goes through those different motions. So even once you get through that process, you will be interviewed by people not just from your team, but from different countries, different areas of the business. So not just to, I guess, learn what it is about how much knowledge you have for the role, but also what else you can bring to Google itself, which is really fun.
Definitely say applying for a job at Google just because it's Google is definitely not going to get you in. Like, you need to show a bit of a passion for specifically what Google is doing. That's at least what I've learned from the interview process and so on. Yeah, very true. Very true.
Yeah, and just to add something regarding this too, so I had the same kind of processes, but what I would add is that at the first step of the interview process, which means when you have the phone interview, for instance, just before you are invited on site to have the interview in person, feel absolutely free to ask questions to the person who is interviewing you, especially at the end of the interview, because this person could provide you very relevant information on the next step that you will have or on the job itself. So for sure, that could be very relevant and useful to you. So.
I think we could probably talk about interviews all day, though.
Yeah, for sure.
There is a lot more on the website as well if you have any questions about the interview process or what it's like to interview at Google. It is a bit of a different process, I think, from your stock standard. So feel free to have a look at any of those resources or, of course, email our wonderful team here. I'm sure they're happy to provide you further insights. But next question we have is for Julia, and this one's coming from Kevin Joey. So what would be your day-to-day tasks? I think he's interested in a role in travel or retail.
Sure. So it's really hard, of course, as for any of us to describe one day, because each day is different and every day we have different tasks. So, for example, last week I went to London and I prepared a Christmas workshop for the clients, because for retail, we start preparation very early. So the whole day I spend with them, not only decorating the room and putting Christmas songs, but also discussing the strategy for Q4, for the peak, for them, how they can win, how they can benefit, how they can maximize the performance. But this is kind of like a one-off, for example. In other day, I'm trying to structure my day in the way that I have client calls, I have some time for internal meetings, and I have some time to reflect on my clients and how I can develop the strategy for them. And on top, of course, I'm trying to have some time for additional initiatives. I'm also having this 20% projects across different products at Google. But in terms of day-to-day activity, you're trying to analyze the revenue for your client. You're trying to see additional opportunities, what else you can pitch, how you can help them to implement these changes, how you can make sure they're benefiting from using our technology, and then getting their feedback, putting it in one system, tracking it, of course, and analyzing the results. So it's a lot of client-facing work, and it's a lot of analysis.
Fantastic. So this one comes from, whoa, you'll have to bear with me. I'm just going to go into the question. But it says, how many days of your vacation do you use every year? And I think this is a really interesting question, because I think the mantra that we have at Google is very much about promoting a healthy work-life balance. So it's very much about we work hard and then we play hard as well. So I think even hearkening to that point, I don't know how many days specifically it is. 25?
Yeah.
Okay, 25. And that's excluding public holidays as well, isn't it? Yeah. So I mean, we really are encouraged, though, to make sure we're taking breaks and that we're looking at things outside of our own interests. So even between ourselves, we have an initiative at Google that we promote, and it's if you're interested in things like languages or, music or whatever the case is, Google will actually fund a certain portion of that as well. So have you guys had any experience with this as of yet, or in terms of different, extracurricular activities that you're doing outside of Google itself?
You guys want to start? I can start, but I feel like.
Yeah, I think for me, I just started, so it's a bit hard to say really what I've been doing or that Google has been funding. Mm-hmm. But what is important, and I think you alluded to it earlier, is sort of that work-life balance that is really, really important here. And so you do get you get plenty of opportunity, rather, to do things that you're interested in, to pursue things that you're interested in. Not only within the job with these kind of 20% projects, which range very, you can help NGOs also with their online marketing. You can do so many things, but even outside of the work hours, because it's very flexible, you have all the freedom to say, well, you know what, if I want to take extra classes, for example, or I'm interested in, let's say, philosophy or psychology or whatever, that you get the freedom and then the flexibility also to go and follow these things and follow these classes and kind of continue to develop yourself as a person besides what you do at work, which is very cool. And that's actually something that I am getting into.
Yeah.
I would say you definitely use your holidays. Don't worry about that part there. And there's plenty of opportunity to do that. In terms of Google funding things to do outside of Google, I'd say they also provide a lot of internal classes that is done by us. basically. So if you want to teach a specific class or something, whether it's being kickboxing or salsa or Spanish, you can choose to teach that, and we sign up. And there's a lot of different programs, like Muay Thai, for example, kickboxing. I've yet to sign up, but that's the plan.
I gave it a go. Muay Thai? Yeah. It's brutal. It's
I can
tough.
imagine. I
It's
can
tough.
imagine. So that's that's one of them. So just internally as well, there's a lot of different classes to do. But yeah, traveling, holidays, you always manage to find the days you can take off, I would say.
Actually, I see you a lot, actually, because they also have this one thing to add to some of the fun things, which is they have this concept called Talks at Google. So they'll actually invite people from experts, professionals from all different kinds of disciplines, and this is done, I think, bi-weekly or every other week, and then they'll host a session where you can go for free. And so I see Casper actually a lot there, and one of the coolest ones that we had recently was the CFO from Waymo. So that's for the part of Alphabet which is for self-driving cars. And so he was here, and he also gave a presentation. So those are some of the other fun things that are really cool that you can do.
I think just on that point, there is always something happening in the background.
Yes.
And there's always something related to different interests and hobbies and passions. For example, I recently attended the Brugelers, which are the Brewing Googlers association meeting, which involved a lot of homebrew. So that was great. That was good fun. Yeah. So, and just on that acronym as well. So we tend to abbreviate everything into different terms. So a new person at Google is called a noogler. Brewing beer is called a brugler. But we also have, my favorite element of the business is a doogler, which is one of the dog Googlers of our office. Google is a very dog-friendly office, and you will see a few of them running around, which is always, I guess, brings a little bit of fun into the office as well, just in there every day. All right, let's have a look at another question, shall we? All right. Oh. Okay. This is, sorry, just bear with me, having a look. All right, what is the biggest challenge you have experienced working in the global customer care role? And I guess we can throw this out to everyone. I think this would be more about working for global operations. Is what's the biggest challenges that you've seen so far?
Or is it Thibaut?
So the biggest challenge as working for global customer care, I would say it's sometimes you receive a call from a customer and you know already that you will not be on green on every of the metrics that you are checked. So in some situation, you know that because you have to solve the case in just 24 hours, otherwise it's going to be bad for the client, you're going to lose revenue, or you have to follow some really strict quality guidelines regarding a law and the way you put taxonomies on the case. So that's a bit technical, but I would say in some cases, you know that it's already done for you. So I would say in this case, it was very challenging, especially when you are starting the job and when you don't really know how to handle the different contact with the clients. And in this case, what you really need to do when you're in global customer care to handle it properly is to reach out to your teammates, because you're actually never alone. I don't know you guys for your job, because you're more in sales job with a more long relation with the clients. But for us, we are very much a team, so we need to work all together actually for solving sometimes just one case that is assigned to only one person. So I would say really the important thing about my job when you're facing something challenging is to be able to gather your teammates around you to try to solve the issue.
I think we can all talk about one of the big things that we use every day here at Google is the support and help of our team. Very much so. It's not I don't think it's an individual role that you come into here. Mm-hmm. There are so many people that you can rely on and so many ways you can get help, which is always really great. And I think one of the most interesting things that I found when coming to Google is very much it's you walk into the role and you won't know who your managers are and who your bosses are. We all look the same, dress the same, and all have kind of a quirky character. But on that note, they're always there to support you and to help you in any way that they can. So there's always a bit of an open door policy in this company when it comes to approaching people and having a chat. Yeah.
I'd say on a stretch for that, Google hires a lot of smart people, and there's definitely, everybody here also always talks about the imposter syndrome, thinking that you don't belong because everybody else speaks 8 languages or they've already sold 2 startups or whatever it is. Because you also talked about metrics in terms of what we're being measured on in terms of success. It's definitely a high-performing environment, I would say. And there's definitely some challenges, but there's not only in global customer care, I would say everybody's here to support you. It's not everybody can help you as long as you just ask them the right questions.
Absolutely. This is an interesting question. How does Google help you to grow in your role to learn more?
I can start.
Please.
So I would say there are 2 factors. Google, that can help you grow, and yourself, or of course, trying to find these opportunities. Because there are so many, it's sometimes really hard to filter right ones for you and then to kind of go and do it. I think everybody would agree that there are constantly new announcements of new opportunities, projects, startups, talks, anything. So there's so many things going on. So I think the main challenge here is to try to focus on particular things that you are interested in and to define for yourself what's your passion, what you like, what you really want to do, for example, next quarter or next 2 years. So for me, the problem sometimes, I'm a generalist, so I like many things. And for me to focus, sometimes it's a challenge. So, but I had a couple of 20% projects with YouTube, then with Cultural Institute. Now I applied for this Adopt a Startup, where we're going to work with startups for 12 weeks and help them grow, which is very interesting for me at this stage of my life. So I would say Google is very supportive also when you have conversations with your manager. When we bring it to our one-to-one conversation, it's also very important to show that you are interested in many things outside of your core role. I receive a lot of support from my managers, and I'm very grateful for that. So, and apart from that, you can grow within your role, you can go to next stage, and then to look around, try to find some contacts and try to find what else you want to do within your core role, maybe outside. There are plenty of opportunities, and maybe you guys also can talk about something that I'm pretty sure you already participated in, even like the fact that there is a internship or this program. We, for example, now participate in that. It's already kind of like a good illustration of additional opportunities.
Definitely say it's a skill-based culture. So you can basically choose, okay, what kind of skills do I want? And you just tell that to the manager. Basically, I love number crunching. I love data analysis. Then, of course, you should have some projects, or you should work on something that has something to do with that, or you love to talk to people, talk with them. If you love to work with startups, you have Adopt a Startup, for example. So it's basically saying which skills you want. Be quite open and frank with your manager about it, and there'll be a way to learn those skills.
Yeah, and I think even on myself, I've joined the One Dublin team here at Google, and what we do is we coordinate a lot of events that happen. So we recently just had the Google Block Party, which involved a series of events in different buildings, and it was about bringing together the people at Google and really kind of facilitating that team environment. And I think it's really interesting because no matter what your interests are, there's always going to be something here that will hearken to that and that will help you grow that both professionally and personally, whether that be speaking engagements or career opportunities, whatever the case is. Both you and your manager always have the openness to talk about that and to try to scope out what it is exactly that you're interested in. So basically bring all of your quirkiness to Google, because that's what we like. It's always a way to kind of explore who you are as a person as well. So that always makes it a lot of fun.
Definitely not the only one with that particular interest. There's always going to be someone else.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a community for it.
Okay, so what is it like to relocate at Google? And that's coming from Pierrick. What do you think, guys? How is it for you?
I was quite new, so I think I can to relocate. Actually, it was that was really easy. So they have you have two different options, but basically they can either just help you relocate they have a great service that'll help you that'll give you temporary housing, that'll give you all this kind of support that you need to to be able to register here, to be able to look at all the legalities and all the things that come into play. And so not only just you, but also they take in your family into account and all this. So I think I had a month of relocation. So I had this temporary house, which was amazing. And so that really makes it also very nice to and it gives you the space to look for a full-time place where you really want to stay. So to be honest, they really make it a breeze. And I had no problems with it at all. It went very, very quickly. Finding a house here is a bit more challenging. I've heard that from a lot of people, although it went very easily for me, luckily. But in any case, they do definitely support you, and you get a lot of anything you need. They definitely help you with that.
I think even in terms of things like getting the right visa and the right permissions to work. So coming from Australia, I had to go through a series of.
That's from you. Yes.
I don't even know why I'm saying anything. This should be yours, but they really make that process easy in terms of finding the right people to talk to, getting appointments sorted, to get your visa sorted. All of those little things go a really long way, because it can be quite challenging coming into a new country, let alone having to tick all those boxes. So that really helps as well. Yeah.
I think it's even on the first day you get help to open a bank account straight away. And you get help to get the Irish equivalent of a social security number. You get that the first week as well, almost. It's like all those administrative, technical legalities, that's taken care of almost. It's more finding yourself in a completely new country with basically no attachments to that country. It's a completely different side of it. Is where you probably put the most of your own personal energy.
Yeah, absolutely. So we haven't got too much longer, so I'll try and get through a couple more questions. But this one is from Anish as well. He was asking us, what's harder, getting in Google or staying there? Which I find an interesting question, because we're all still here, I think. Ask me tomorrow maybe. But I think in terms of the process, once you interview and things like that, there's then an ongoing series of things that you must do or that you have to do as part of your role. But in that, we do things like perf. So did you guys maybe want to explain your take on perf and what that might look like?
Yes, sure. So I would say getting in was not easy, of course. And staying at Google, it's not easy, and I think it makes sense why it's not easy. Everybody is very smart, competitive, very ambitious. So you're in this very fast environment, and it keeps you very, very motivated all the time. So you don't have time to relax and say, okay, I reached everything, now I can chill, which is very good. So every half a year, normally we have an assessment. It's called PERF. When you write all your achievements, all your key figures, what you managed to achieve within half a year, and then you review it with your manager. So I would say it's a nice time to reflect on what has been done and on what you want to do next, whether you want to grow within your team, you want to look for other opportunities, you want to take some additional projects. So this is kind of time to think about the past half a year and to build the plans. So I would say, it's not easy. It's challenging, but it's very good, right? That's why we are here.
Absolutely.
In terms of staying here, Google is not interested in, as soon as you get in, to kick you out if you're not performing. That's not the culture. I've had people from my team who found themselves in the role, but quickly learned that specific position wasn't for them. They didn't know how. it wasn't their passion, ergo they didn't perform quite well. And of course that meant they had to talk with their manager about it. So what should we do and so on. And now they've been moved to a different team. So obviously if you go in and you think you're gonna do any of our roles and you figure out that's actually not the role I want, I don't belong here, like this is not where my passion is, it's quite easy to say that, and then they'll find some place elsewhere to you. Definitely getting in is the hard part. As soon as you're in, I would say they take good care of you.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I would even say that somehow you are encouraged at some point to look for something else within Google. Like for instance, in my team, it's an entry job team, but the turnover is about 2 years, 2.5, maybe 3 years. And then you are encouraged by this system of birth every 6 months to try to look for something else that would fit maybe a bit better with what you want to do. And then once your manager will really encourage you to do that, and even the team that you may contact for getting to this other position would be most of the time really open to welcome you for shadowing sessions, for instance.
Yeah.
I think there's always a way to talk to your manager about career paths and about, if you are struggling in the role, or if maybe it's not what you thought it would be. We take such a long time to hire at Google. I think it's an average of about 6 months or something just to get someone in the role. So once you're in, we don't want to lose you, clearly. So, once you've gone through that process, it's very much a case of then, what works best for you. So yeah, I think it's really interesting how that can kind of grow and develop. I want to do sorry, please.
I think the director, just as an example, the director of HR went into Google, director of HR here in EMEA, went into Google as an engineer and worked as an engineer for a very long time, but figured out he would rather work in HR, just as an example.
Another good example is Diane Green, the current CEO of Google Cloud. She was from an engineering background and she's now the CEO and running the business. So she's, coming from a very different kind of skill set, some would say, to then run and head a global organization like that. So there's always just very interesting ways that people get to where they are. And I think Diane Green's a really great example of that. So we've got a few minutes left. And thank you so much, Ricardo, for bringing that up. We definitely won't forget. But one question I want to ask everyone is that Google does some really amazing things and some really creative things. In your time that you've had here, and understanding some of us are fairly newer than others, what's been one of the really coolest developments that you've seen in terms of tech? And this can be anything that Google have branched into.
Apart from bridge between our buildings.
Apart from the bridge between our buildings, yes.
Let me think.
In Google Dublin.
I know Google generally.
Google
Some of the things
products.
that Google are doing in terms of tech advancements. So one example is we have Project Luna, which is launching these Wi-Fi balloons in different places that might struggle to have Wi-Fi. And I think doing initiatives and projects like that are just so exciting, so cutting edge. As you were saying before, Casper, we have some very, very intelligent people here. So has there been anything that you've seen is really cool, or anything that you really love talking about from Google?
Yeah, I think for me, they kind of got headlines lately with the assistant then, which was quite cool, and probably many of you saw that. And just using our machine learning and then AI technologies to really just create an amazing assistant that can do so many things for you. So I thought that was very cool, and sort of a glimpse into the future.
It's going to be booking my dentist appointments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, this personalized approach to each user is very valuable. So you feel like, Google is working for you, for the user, for each individual user, rather than for big communities. So I think that's something that we develop more and more. So yeah.
I'd say something completely different. During the World Cup, there were some engineers that developed it wasn't a specific program, but to calculate who was going to win the World Cup, and it actually calculated France, which is amazing to me. But yeah, that's just an internal side thing.
That is very cool. All right, we are going to wrap it up now as we have a last minute. But before I wrap up, I would like to say a big congratulations to our winner for the mock interview session. And that goes out to Anika. So well done. Woo! Congrats on winning that. We will be in touch with more details, so please bear with us once we get through to you. But last final remarks is thank you so much for your participation today. I understand there are a lot of questions that were answered, and we'll do our best to get back into those or to answer those as many as we can, answer as many of those questions as we can. But also thank you to the lovely panelists who have joined us today. Big thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It's always really insightful and exciting to work at Google, and you can just tell by the talent that's on this couch here, the kind of people that Google are always looking to find and employ. It's always from a diverse background, a really interesting mix, and there's always something a little quirky that makes us, I guess, employable here. So feel free to bring all of your quirks and character. We welcome you all.
Great.
Have a lovely day.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye.